Good morning and welcome to Wednesday Live Coffee Talk. I'm Michelle Quay. As a new business owner, you probably feel like you're playing with a big, gigantic piece of puzzle. There's so many pieces that you have to take care of, and you are by yourself trying to figure out all the pieces. Where do they go together? And it makes perfect sense why you might feel a little overwhelmed. You have to do the marketing, you have to be your own operational officer, you have to do the bookkeeping, and you are your own everything. But what if all you need to start is actually just growing yourself in your coaching business? What would it take? And is it too good to be true? If you are new to me, I'm Michelle. I'm a visibility and marketing coach for women coaches, and then I teach women coaches to use the power of storytelling marketing strategies that actually work so that they can turn a passion for coaching into a profitable business by just increasing their visibility and profitability without sacrificing their own uniqueness. I cover topics including branding, storytelling, and marketing with tips and strategies so that you can get more clients and have more time and freedom to actually do the things that you love, which is making more impact. If this sounds like you or someone that you know can benefit from watching this show, please hit the subscribe button and follow and turn your notification on to this channel so that you don't miss any my new upcoming episodes. Now, just a quick announcement, I am gifting away a free social media content planner for women coaches to set your social media goals. That includes a framework that you can actually apply to make your content creation easy peasy. I'm really totally into the lazy marketing strategy. So grab your free copy at content.attractclients to storytelling.com and you get to have a free copy today. All right, let's get started with the show today. Today, I am speaking with a professional coach and consultant, Daniel Macca, my favorite lead trainer from iPad Coaching. He is, I have a lot of women coaches on my show, so forgive me there. A highly accomplished coach and trainer with extensive experience in coaching executive, entrepreneur, and university students. Daniel is here to share his view and what it takes to grow your own coaching business. With a background of psychology and MBA in organization behavior, Daniel has a unique talent for helping individuals and organizations overcoming internal as well as external blocks to success. And his unique approach is using a combination of focusing strategies, awareness, and reflection tools that is action-based sequence in order to help his client to get unstuck. Now, we don't want to take you don't want to listen to me, do you? You want to listen to Daniel Macca. So let's bring him to the show today. There
Hey,
he is.
Michelle. Hello. Hey, how's it
Hi.
going?
Thank you
Hi.
so much for coming.
Hey, my pleasure. I was just sitting backstage enjoying that the lead-in. Wow, fantastic. Looks fantastic.
We have a couple of our friends, Elise,
Hey,
she's
Elise.
here, and
Yeah.
then Stephen is also
Steven.
here. So we have a lot of your supporter here today joining us.
Yeah. Thank
I
you for
wanted
being
to
here.
thank you so much for coming to the show because I remember going and volunteer for you during the mod, and you're
Yeah.
just such a great person, a great coach
Oh,
with
thank you.
such a great insight. And one of the things I started to work on my show is I wanted to bring coaches who has started a successful career as a coach to share their experience. So I'm curious, how did you get into coaching?
Yeah, thanks. Well, first, let me just thank you for having me here, and it's an honor. And it's always been such a pleasure to work with you, and I can't wait till we circle back and do that again. So I got my start in coaching kind of in a circuitous way. So just a little bit about me. My background is in psychology, and I worked in community mental health for about 15 years. So I was a therapist, program manager, did a little bit of everything in that agency. and I knew it was time for me to move on. I just had been having that feeling. A lot of my clients describe it in the work that they do, where they just don't have that sense of fulfillment anymore, and they know the job, they can do it, they can show up every day, but it just doesn't give them that excitement. And so I was looking to leave. I was looking to do something else, and decided that I was going to go back to graduate school, and I did. And I was in my MBA program at the time, and I had a leadership professor who was also a coach, and I had heard of coaching, but I wasn't really sure about, what it was exactly.
Mm,
I think I had some of the common misconceptions about what coaching is, thinking it, is it consulting? Is it telling people what to do? Is it even legitimate as a career, career or a profession? So I took her to dinner, and we sat and talked, and she gave me some information, and she gave me some other contacts to reach out to. So I just really began my coaching journey through extensive research. And that's what ultimately led me to the coaching school that I attended and actually now teach for. And I discovered IPEC, and I went through their program, and I was immensely impressed by the rigorous nature of study, and really the detail to attention of not only turning out really qualified coaches, but coaches who embody what I would call a coaching mindset, which is one that's infused with positivity, possibility, and really built on self-reflection and self-growth. Really resonated with me. So I left coaching school. I graduated from my graduate program, and probably less than 2 months later, I was laid off from my job. Like, that was it. Like, thank you very much. In fact, it was December, so it's coming, it's coming up on the anniversary of that. So suddenly I was without an income. I had 2 children, and I was married. I had a mortgage, and I was like, oh snap, what do I do now?
mm,
And long story short, I just decided that's the time I put my stake in the ground, and I go on and become a professional, coach that's paid for doing what I do. And I became a business owner almost overnight. So I had a lot to learn, and I just threw myself into it, and just learned as much as I could. I made probably every mistake one can make in the book, but I had a commitment to success because my bridge was burned. There was nowhere else to go other than to try to get a job in corporate. And thankfully they wouldn't have me. So that's how I got started.
I I love this story. I did not know this about you. And
Yeah.
so, just to recap, so you studied in psychology, and then you went
Mhm.
on to get your MBA in graduate school, and then you came across IPEG.
Mhm.
Along that line, you lost your job. What was it like sitting at home? You're looking at 2 children, you have a family to, like, you got mouth to feed, but you have no income. Like, what
Yeah.
was it like in that moment?
Well, it's really interesting. And this is the truth. It was almost like a parallel process. So I just gone through IPEC, and you're familiar with IPEC and
Yeah,
the IPEC philosophies and
right.
those types of things. So there was a part of me that felt like, I know this is exactly what is supposed to happen. Like, I knew that I had co-created being where I was, because I knew that there was a big part of my soul that was being unfulfilled in the work that I was doing, and I was just kind of, it's just passing the day. So I knew that this is right where I needed to be, and I knew that I could make what I wanted happen. And then there was another part of me that was freaking out, right? There was the other part of me that was scared and questioning, and so on one shoulder I had fear, and on the other shoulder I had belief. And it
Mm,
was really, which did I want to feed? And whichever way I decided to feed, well, that was the one that was going to own the day. So I tried as much as I could, feed into the belief, feed into the possibility, and do the things that will lead you to be successful. Meanwhile,
mm.
I was, occasionally frightened, and I built a lot of contingency plans. What if? How could I build some safety nets in case I needed a longer runway? And thankfully, it all worked out just as it needed to be.
Yeah. Was there any moment where, I'm sure there was. Was there any moment where you're sitting there and you're like almost caving to the fear? Because I know a lot of, at least from my
Mm.
audience, a lot of them are at the cusp of
Sure.
quitting their corporate job.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was struggling with was, once I quit, I have no income. I
Sure.
don't have anything coming in.
Yeah.
W- And what if in that moment I decided to cave into that fear?
Yeah. Yeah, well, thankfully, the universe had different plans for me because I think it takes more courage to leave your job willingly, knowing that you can stay, than it did for me to get kicked out of the nest. But the
Yeah.
universe said, you need to get kicked out of the nest because you'll just stay. You're going to and delay, right? I mean, maybe I would have continued to build a business, but slowly, um, more slowly. So yeah, it's so in my case, the giving in and not necessarily giving into fear, but the more practical, right? There's practicality that took over.
Yeah.
So I applied for jobs while I was doing my business building. I even had job interviews, but it became really clear in those interviews, this isn't it. This isn't it. I even got a job offer, and I was like, I can't take this. If I take this job, that's going to steer me away from what I really think I should be doing. It wasn't something that would have been interesting to me. So I think in those moments that's why I built in those backup plans of, okay, well, what can I do to continue to bring in some income? Or how can I, in my case, thankfully, I had, a minuscule amount, but for a little period of time, I got some unemployment, right? I was on unemployment for a couple of months while I was building my business. I still had to apply for jobs and go through all the hoops, that sort of thing. But it was enough to make it, through to cover the expenses and that kind of thing. But I wasn't as picky about my clients as I am now. Meaning, I'm in a place now where I don't want to work with everybody, and I
Mhm.
don't need to. I want to really work with people who I feel a deep resonance with, and we're going to do great work together. Back then, I could be less selective. I was just saying yes, yes, let's work together. And that goes to another piece too, is what I'll use a musical reference, building your chops. Like in the beginning, coach or work with everybody you can to just continue to hone and build your skill set. And that was valuable too. But I think again, there was that deeper part of me that knew that this is what I want and I'm going to make it happen. And there's a couple foundational tenets that I had already began building in my business,
Mhm.
in the idea that know why you're doing it, right? My why for being able to be successful was that I had a family to support, and that was a big why. I
Mhm.
wanted to keep my house, I wanted to keep my vehicles, I wanted to be able to afford the lifestyle I wanted. So it was like I put my stake in the ground and I went forward and I just made things happen. And then just as much as I thought I was going to make things happen, I call it the universe. The universe opened up opportunities that I would have never expected. And I think that was because I was showing up ready.
I love the fact that where you talked about, you weren't picky about the type of clients that you were working with initially.
Yeah,
And you basically just say yes to coach. And you were just in that process, it was just teaching you every moment how to be a coach. And
absolutely.
and I'm sure through that experience, you also learn a lot about yourself. And I was visiting your website this morning, and one of the quote that you included was from Ralph Emerson. Our
Hmm.
chief want in life is someone who shall make us do what we can. What
Yeah.
does that quote means to you?
Well, for me, that means accountability and working and having a workout partner. And I believe that as a coach, that's one of the things that we provide is this idea that we know inherently within ourselves that we want to do and be certain things. And we're not as infallible as we'd like to be. Sometimes we need someone else who said, hey, you said you were going to do this or that you wanted to do this. Let's go. Let's go. It's not always easy to get up on a cold morning, put your shoes on, and go out and run. But if you have someone that you're going to talk to later that says, hey, how'd that run go? Or you're going to be meeting your buddy outside in 15 minutes to go for that run, that accountability partner is crucial. And you can expand that to beyond just simple tasks like running or finishing a piece of work, that can be as as profound as growing into the human being that you want, and having someone there to bear witness and ask you those difficult questions that are really easy to ignore should we want to. So I think that's what Emerson was getting at with that quote, and I'd like to think that's what I provide when I work with other people, and that's certainly what my coach provides for me.
Mhm. Have you ever been in a position where you had to ask this really harsh question, like, "Why are you doing what you do?"
Mm,
I know a lot of time we ask why, it can come off depending on what energy level we're asking that question, it
sure.
can come off a little bit offensive, right? "What do you mean why? This is my
Mm,
passion. What do you
yeah.
mean why?" So, have you ever, like, been in that situation where you had to ask that question in order to get someone to go?
I think that there's been times where I've been compelled to be really curious about someone's choices,
Mhm.
and really hold that up as a mirror for them to reflect on, because there are certain patterns that we as humans find ourselves in, and what do you know? We're getting the same results over and over again, right? And having that mirror to reflect on as to, well, what led you to make that choice. I think that opens up some awareness, right? And I think awareness, self-awareness, is the key to consciousness and consciousness growth. So if we want to really change what we're doing, we have to become more aware of who we are and what's compelling us to do what we do. So yeah, those questions come up. And most of the time, thankfully, I believe that I have a deep enough rapport with the people that I work with that they trust me and know why I'm asking those questions.
Mhm.
And it's really all geared towards becoming more aware of the choices that we make. I'm sure some people have felt a little sting from being seen, right? It's not always easy to be seen, and sometimes we see that because they become emotional. They're not necessarily frustrated or angry with me, but they can become really emotional and sometimes become frustrated and angry with themselves. Like, how could, once you have that awareness,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I've done the same thing 20 years in a row in my life. And then there's all kinds of things that can come from that. They can feel disappointed they wasted so much time and so on.
Mm.
But the reality behind that is there's no such thing as wasted time, and there's no way they could have been doing anything different because they didn't have that awareness. So self-compassion is another big tenet that I really work with on my clients, understanding that along with self-growth comes self-compassion.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about how you got into coaching and what it was like for you in
Yeah.
the early phases of your business. For someone who's starting out new, and I know a lot of my audience are
Mhm.
starting out new and they
Yeah,
have no idea where to go. Like,
sure.
what is the most essential first step for people who's watching?
Yeah, and it's such a good question, Michelle. And I think there's starting out, and then there's reinventing, right? So
Yeah.
as you know, when your business grows, you hit different growth points, and then it's almost like starting over again anyway. And almost to some extent, I feel like I'm at that place. I'm reinventing how I approach doing business. So there's learning. So the first thing is always knowing what you want and learning. But I think it all comes down to know your craft. That's the first piece. Is like, as get as good as you can, and then accept that you are as good as you are where you are, and own it. So with that comes some confidence. But look, when I started, and maybe this was a blessing, this was before email marketing funnels, or maybe it wasn't, maybe they were out there and I just wasn't aware of them. But without all the technology and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and you name it, and there's so many distractions almost, that I think people forget that what you really need is yourself. And if you have a client, great, a client, and then some way to communicate with them. In the early stages of my career, a lot of my clients were local, so I
Yeah.
sat with them in an office and we talked. But let's say you don't have local clients, you need a telephone or some way to communicate, whether that's Zoom, whatever platform or medium you communicate across. So those are your kind of foundational pieces, because you are at that point your business. You're the product, and the service, and then you have your client. So a way of delivering that service in a way that's consistent. And then, so then, basic business things that you need a bank account. Just have a bank account. So you're going to put your money that you earn from your client into that separate bank account. You need a way to schedule your clients. Now, in the beginning, you don't need to be fancy. You don't even necessarily need a scheduling program. If you've got Google Calendar or a calendar, you schedule them right there on the calendar. You send them an invite, and then you talk. I'm a huge proponent of keeping it simple, because I think sometimes new coaches feel like they have to have so many things and they get overwhelmed that they forget the simple piece of just get out and coach. That's how you're building your chops. And so you got your bank account to collect your money. If you're not in person like I used to take checks. Give me the check, I put it in my bank account, right? So if you're from a distance, there's wonderful, easy ways to capture money. You can use something as simple as PayPal or Venmo. I think I would be a little wary of the fees that are charged for collecting money. I think PayPal might be a little high at this point, but I still use Squarespace I send invoices to my clients using Squarespace, and I have them pay me that way.
Mhm.
So you got your money collection, and once you get enough clients that it makes sense, get yourself a simple scheduling program. There's a ton out there that are free or very inexpensive, but again, you want to be spending money in the right spots, and it's not on all the fancy things in the beginning. Not in the beginning. At least that's my methodology. Some people want to go bells and whistles in the beginning, and more power to you if you got the capital to do that. In the beginning, I didn't, right? I was bootstrapping, and I figured I'd grow my business technology as my client base grew. The other thing I think that's helpful to have is a way to capture notes. Now, in the beginning, again, just piece of paper works just fine, or a Word document. As you get a little more fancy, you might want to have a client management system where you've got some back end piece of keeping track of your clients, keeping notes on your sessions, and being able to connect with them. Nowadays, it's almost goes without saying, you need some presence in the world. So a website, a simple website. Again, you do not need to go out and hire a designer to create a 15-page interactive market. You can go to the main website builders. Wix is one, Squarespace is another. I know there's others out there, and build a simple website that just basically says, this is me, this is what I do, here's how I can help you. And the most important thing that a lot of websites overlook that I notice is a call to action. What do you want people to do when they come to your website? Do you want them to reach out to you to schedule an appointment? If so, make that really obvious. Do you want them to put their information in so that they can receive something and you can contact them? Make it obvious, make it simple. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to websites and I can't even find contact information. Like, I would love to reach out to you and buy what you got, but I don't even know how to reach. I don't even know how to contact you. You got an amazing looking website, but I don't know how to reach you. So I think if you have those basic things, you're off to a good start. I don't know. Am I missing anything? I don't know.
No, I love everything that you just shared. I feel like this episode worth $1 million, like literally worth $1 million, because this is really how you get started. And I
Yeah.
see a lot of coaches asking, Elise is saying Google site is a great free option.
Okay, there you go.
See? And I feel like a lot of coaches that I come across, and even on social media, as I'm browsing through everybody's questions, I see a lot of people asking, like, where do I begin? Or people are confused, where do I start? And I remember my first client was someone I was working out in the gym, and he literally passed me a check. I had a check, not like Venmo, not PayPal. It's just
Right.
a check,
Yeah.
a physical check.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm in business.
Yes.
Check.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the fact, and I also love the fact you share about the website, because so this is like totally VIP exclusive insider info about Daniel. So Daniel is probably the least technology, tech savvy coach that I know of.
You think that. You actually think I lead you to believe that, but it's not entirely true. And that's just because I had an old cell phone for many years. And yeah.
Like when I go to your website is probably the most simple, easy to navigate website that I have ever seen.
Hmm.
And it proved to say that you can be a very successful coach without all these like belts and whistles, all these stuff, that's showing up on your website. Just get started. Like look at Daniel, like his website. Go check out his website. It's exactly what he said. There's an about page, there's work with me page, and there's a contact page and describing the services that he's offering. It's a very simple way of getting clients.
Yeah. 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 And here's the truth. I mean, it's so funny. You don't know that Michelle and I have this ongoing like
Conversation.
conversation about technology. It's because I had an old cell phone, and I had that old cell phone because it fit in my pocket really well, and the bigger ones didn't. But I actually am fairly tech savvy, and I've built a number of websites in other platforms and, coded in HTML and that sort of thing. Although now I feel I am a little behind the technology curve, Michelle, after watching your intro. I feel like I really need to brush up on that so that I could get something. Yeah, but I want my website to be simple. I want it to be simple because I want people, look, I want to spend my time talking to clients as much as I love building websites. Don't get me wrong. I want to spend my time with clients doing that, more client facing. Now, you remember I was saying that there's a crossroads, right? Now I'm reaching that point where I'm like, okay, now I want to reinvest some time and go back in and do some tweaks. But I always want whatever I'm providing to be simple, clear, concise, understandable, and know how to navigate what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there could be some truth, Michelle. I could spend some more time learning more modern technologies, but
So how do you market yourself? Like, so we're keeping
yeah.
things simple. So how do you market yourself?
Well, again, I can tell you how I have been, and what's been successful for me. And early on, I don't even remember. I wish I could attribute who gave me this piece of advice, but what they said to me was, what do you like to do? In other words, what do you have fun doing? What do you love doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I love talking to people. I love presenting. I love being on stage, that sort of thing. And they're like, well, that's your route for marketing yourself. It's because what you love to do, you're going to do over and over again. And business is a numbers game. And I mean, it's as simple as that. If we just go to raw business is a numbers game. You got to put yourself in front of enough people who know you exist to find the ones that want to work with you. So for me, it's been, how do I position myself in front of people to talk to them so that they can get to know me, right? That's really what it's about. People are going to work with you if they know you a little bit, if they go, yeah, I like you, and I trust that you're competent. That's critical. So for me, it was how could I get speaking engagements? How could I put myself in front of people who are potential clients? And that came through a variety of ways. I spent a lot of time doing lunch and learns, doing free talks, workshops that that would draw people. Now, the other thing that I had going for me in the beginning was I'd been a counselor in this community for 15 years, right? So people already knew me and knew my skill set. So I started with what I call my warm market and expanded outwards. And I've done guest appearances for different things at universities where I'm given the platform to speak. But for me, if you put me up on the stage and I can talk on a subject that I'm interested in, leadership, growth, you name it, anything, I know that I can engage somebody in that room enough that they want to talk to me a little bit more about what I do. And then we have a conversation to see, would we be a good fit? So largely my marketing efforts have gone through in-person presentation types of conversations. The other thing that I've done is I've done a little bit in terms of social media, but really that's just so that I have a face out there. It's really not where I, at this point in time, acquire clients. And again, I built myself to a particular level of reputation and I guess, I don't know, being known enough that 90% or more of my clients now are referrals, people referring me, but you have to work to get there. But again, if you are somebody who loves to write,
Yeah.
then use that, because you're going to do it over and over and over again. If you love social media and you have the skill set like Michelle does, get out there and do that. It's something you just gotta, it's not like one day you cross the line and all of a sudden the floodgates open. It's a every day you show up and do a little bit.
Yeah. I think people forget that you walk into coaching not entirely from like a blank canvas. It's
Yeah.
it's a new experience, yes, true, but there's already has some skill sets that you bring into the coaching business that you can leverage, you can use. And
Yeah.
I think coaches are forgetting that. So a lot of times, we associate ourselves as, oh, I'm a new coach, I'm a newbie coach, but it's not entirely true. It's not true
No.
at all. You do have
Mm-mm.
some talents. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You have every talent that you have ever had. You're just using it a little differently, right?
Yeah.
Everything you've ever done in your life has led you to the point where you are now, and you just harness those same skills and do that. For me, so even when here's another story. You don't know this about me either, Michelle. When I was still working at the agency as a counselor, I started another business. I've always been entrepreneurial, so I've started a number of different businesses. I started and ran a medical practice with my wife, but this was back before all of that. I I decided to get involved in a direct marketing company, and in something that I really believed in, like the product. It was something I really believed in. It had to do with insurance. So specifically for me, it was employee benefits.
Mhm.
So I got comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where I really cut my teeth in learning how to bootstrap and run a business. I at one point was calling 25 to 30 company owners and or trying to get into the decision makers so that I could get my product as one of their employee benefits. And so I got really used to and okay with being told no. Like I learned to not take no's personally, and I knew that if someone said no to working with me, that's okay. It's just not now. It meant that I was one step closer to somebody who might say yes. And that really kind of built my um I don't know, I guess it built my ability to recognize that if I wanted to be successful, I had to be okay with putting myself out there confidently and believing in what I was doing, and also being okay that that not everybody's going to say yes, and that I didn't have to throw my hands up in the air and go, "Oh, this is never going to work," simply because somebody said, "No, we're not interested." Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's true in that business, and I certainly know that it's true as a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Funny how you brought that up, because I got into this whole marketing side of coaching is because I was stuck. I was feeling that I wasn't getting seen. I wasn't getting any clients, and I had struggled to get
yeah,
get clients. So I started to learn about direct marketing. I wrote numerous. I'm the kind of person who love and enjoy writing. So I wrote numerous emails to all the friends and family I know of, like anybody who's on my newsletter, I'm gonna write to them every single day. And I was at the point of I was writing emails every single day, and that's
mhm,
how I got into this
yeah,
whole direct marketing. And I'm like, just what you said. It's okay for people to say no. No, no, right now doesn't mean no's forever. So as long as I get my foot into the door, I'm okay. I've got a voice in this world.
yes.
Where do you see our coaching industry is heading within the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I I think I continue to see it grow and become more mainstream. I really feel like uh, coaching. Well, I've already seen some significant changes. So coaching used to be in the corporate space a place that people were sent on their way out the door. Like if you were about to be fired, the last box they would check before they could fire you was to send you to a coach.
Mhm.
Now that's changed, and now coaching is is something that a lot of companies are using for their high potential employees. They're also bringing coaching philosophy and coaching skills and coaching programs into the corporate space. And that tells me that it's going more mainstream. If it's being accepted in corporate culture as something that's beneficial and useful, well, then it's kind of found its way mainstream. So I see it going that way. And I also see that potentially because of that, I mean, I don't know this and nobody's told me this,
Mhm.
but there's potentially some more regulation that might get put in place around it. So more rigor around making sure that coaches are trained. Companies are already sort of self-selecting and doing that. Usually they're interested in hiring people who are ICF accredited.
Mhm.
Um, but it potentially could go the way that some other industries have, where they want to put uh, more, I don't know, safeguards in place, if that is that, or a safe way to say that. The other thing I see is like people saying, well, the market is going to be overwhelmed and saturated, and there won't be room for me to make money.
Mhm.
Now, that's one way to think, but I would challenge you to open up well, we don't have them anymore. Back in the day, there are these things called yellow
Yellow
pages.
pages.
Are you familiar with those? And if you opened up the yellow pages to the lawyer section, that was like 3/4 of the book, right? So I don't think that the marketplace is going to become oversaturated with coaches. I think there's always a place, and I think that you will always find clients who are meant to work with you. But I would also say this: it's not a bad idea as a coach to diversify how you generate income. Like, that's one of the other things that I learned that I feel is it's really served me well. Meaning, all of my income is not via one-on-one clients. I think that having like a variety of ways that you earn income, be it workshops, classes, speaking engagements, one-on-one clients, group coaching, those types of things, allows you to have a little more flexibility and not feel like, oh my gosh, I've got to close this client, otherwise my one source of income is not going to be providing money. But I see the industry continuing to grow. In fact, research shows that it's
Yeah.
continuing to go. It's continuing to grow.
Yeah. I feel like after the pandemic, the industry has grown so much.
Yeah.
It makes sense that ICF would be putting some type of regulation, or looking into putting some type of regulation to
Yeah.
distinguish whether these coaches are certified versus the one who are maybe haven't think about becoming certified. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important. As I had gone through, I have echoes. As I have gone through the program myself, I feel like, I spend so much time and energy in investing myself. I would certainly like to see some type of regulation that's in place. Yeah.
I go back and forth on that. And the only thing that makes me even feel like further regulation is helpful or necessary is really more around client education, just so that a client knows what they're getting.
Mhm.
If I don't, I yeah, I mean, I feel like if we do a good job as coaches who are certified, representing who we are, and we're professional and what we stand for, I think that might be enough personally. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I've seen advertisements. I just saw one the other day. Maybe they know I'm a coach or I'm interested in coaching, but I was on Facebook and I got an ad to be a coach, and it was only going to cost me $7. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, I was like,
I was
dang, wow, that's a lot cheaper than a lot of the other programs, and but
the
how.
one I came across with $49.
Well, 40, you were getting ripped off, right? Mine was only
obviously,
7. Yeah.
obviously, I need to be on your Facebook algorithm.
Right? I can find the bargains. But I mean, how well trained are you really gonna be for $7? Now, maybe phenomenally well trained. I don't know. I didn't sign
Yeah.
up for the program, but
Yeah.
chances are probably not. But I know what I know what the qualifications are to become a professionally certified coach, and they're rigorous. There's and I'm actually on my path to become what's considered an MCC level coach with the ICF, and it is it's quite rigorous. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's the value I want to provide to my clients. No, that's not to say that there are people out there who've never had training that maybe are fantastic coaches. So would I want to inhibit them from being able to practice their craft? I don't know, but um,
Mhm.
I kind of come from the standpoint, I want my clients to know what they're going to get, and I want them to understand, that I'm somebody who's been trained, I'm certified. Here's what it means. I have ethics that I work under, and
Yeah.
committed to providing you with the best service I can.
I think it speaks values like integrity and having that values. I do want to respect your time and I love to wrap up the session, but I do know that you brought something really amazing for our audience. It's something called discovery session that sells. Can you
Mm.
tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I learned early on, again, is if I don't know how to talk to a client or a potential client, then I'm probably going to struggle with having clients. And again, remember I said I've made all the mistakes that one could make. Well, yeah, that was one of them. Early on, I used to be so excited to tell people, oh, what's coaching? If someone rue the day you walked up to me early on and asked me what coaching was, because then you were going to be stuck there for 15, 20 minutes while I like just spouted everything that could be said about what coaching is and how amazing it is and so on. I came to realize that that's not really what people are interested in, right? They want to know, how can you help me? So eventually I just created this way of talking to clients or potential clients, I should call them potential clients, that
Mhm.
made more sense, right? So I started to devise this understanding of, well, what's the first thing I need to know? Well, I need to know what somebody wants. I need to understand why someone would even want to engage with a coach. And I just built this process out of that understanding. The foundation, though, of it, so the foundation of it, though, is having confidence in yourself and in what you have to provide, that it's valuable. And I had to make sure I didn't have any like hangups around talking about what I do, like that.
Mhm.
It wasn't like I'm bragging when I say I can help you. That in fact was something that is legitimate. I truly believe that if we have these conversations, is going to be a benefit to you. So that guide that I developed essentially just walks people through the process of understanding how to conduct a client session. Because sometimes the other thing I found was, if you don't have a framework for that conversation, then the potential prospecting client might just take it in a whole different direction that isn't going to be beneficial to you or them. So it's a structured way to have that conversation that gets the information out. What do they want? What do they need? Kind of get a feel for understanding each other. What's their life going to be like potentially if they work with you?
Mhm.
And then also having a way to confidently talk about, this is what I do and here's how I do it. And then the last piece that I hope I included in there, and I believe I did, is if you want to work with that person, ask for that. Ask for that. Like, I would love to work with you. Right? Don't just have that conversation and then say, okay, well, if you ever think of me again, give me a call. But no, ask. Hey, listen, I believe I can help you. How interested are you in working with me? And being okay if they say no. Okay,
Mhm.
hey, awesome. Because then the other piece that I hope is infused in that, and I don't know, it's been a while since I really looked at it, but I hope I wrote it with this in mind, is I want that conversation to be valuable regardless of whether or not they say yes. Meaning, if you and I are going to spend time having this conversation, I want that to be of value for you.
Yeah.
And then you can go on about your life, and I'll know I put something good in the world. And if you want to work with me, wonderful. If you don't, well, maybe someday you will. So that's
Yeah.
what that is. Yeah.
I would love to have that, and I know Steve said also please share that discovery call guide. So I will include the link into the episode notes, so that everyone can go and download. And you can also reach out to Daniel via his website. He has
Mhm.
his contact. You won't be able to miss any of the contact information on his website
You'll
because
be able
he,
to find me. Should be
yeah,
able to find me. Yeah,
you'll be able to find it.
yeah.
Any last word of advice for us today?
Oh, boy. Well, before I get to the last word of advice, I just want to mention, Michelle, when we were talking, you were saying that link might be funky. It could be that, that lack of expertise in technology. So if anybody has any troubles with that link, just let me know, because apparently, I wrote it in a language that's not my own, apparently. But we'll make sure that that's working. My piece of advice is like, um, there's a couple pieces of advice. I actually give this to my kids, and they probably are like, "Oh God, Dad, I'm so sick of hearing that." But I used to coach high school lacrosse. I coached lacrosse for a lot of years, and I would always tell my players, "Don't be willing, don't wish for more than you're willing to work for." So don't let anybody fool you into thinking um, that you don't have to put in a little bit of sweat equity to make things happen, right? You have to put in some energy and effort. You have to do the things that are going to get you to where you want to go. Apologize if you can hear my little dog barking in the background, trying to save us from all the big bad things in the world. The other piece of advice that I would say is, well, I'll give you two last pieces. One is believe in yourself, especially if you've gone through a program where you've been trained to become a coach. You have the skills that you need to be successful as a coach, right? Believe in your capacity to make a difference. And the world needs people like you. There are people out there in the world that are hurting, and they're looking for you, and they need to be able to find you. So my last piece of advice is, put yourself out there broadly and proudly, and do it every day, and the right people will find you. If you're struggling or you're stuck, find somebody who you trust to work with to help you on that path. I certainly did myself. I've got a long line of mentors and people that I worked with that helped me along the path, and experts that I paid to help me that when I didn't know something. So I'll probably reach out to you, Michelle, and be like, how can you help me make that amazing intro that you have on your show?
That will require a little bit of technology. You need to be tech savvy.
You know what I'm going to do though for you? I'm going to put together something that's going to blow your mind. I'm going to send it over to you, and you're like, oh, he really does know how to do these things.
All right, you're on. I'm gonna hold you accountable for
There
that.
you go. We're going to go back to Emerson's quote.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to Emerson's quote. Chief wanting life is someone who shall make us do what we can.
Yeah.
And I think the can is a little too in the present tense. I think what we could,
Right?
like
Yeah.
the possibility of what we possibly could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you have that ready to go and pull back up again.
I'll show you how.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, I wanted to thank you so much for coming to the show. I had such a great time, and
Me
I will
too.
make sure to link your the discovery session that sells the free guide into the episode notes. I will double check you with the link to make sure that
Yeah.
it is a working link, so that we can get it out to the audience.
Thank you.
What you shared today is just absolutely wonderful and valuable. Like I said, it's worth $1 million, because if the audience were just to take all what they have heard today and start implementing them one step at a time, and just go out and be coach and start coaching. Don't worry about all the fancy belts and whistles and
Yeah.
fancy stuff, and just go out and coach.
Yeah. In the beginning, just talk to people. Let them know what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's been my pleasure. I mean, there's so much more I'd love to share with you. We'll have to get together again another time, or
Yeah,
have you
I'm
come
gonna have
over and
to.
visit my podcast, and I'll
I'm,
interview you.
I need to bring you back for episode number 2, like a part 2.
After I get my really fancy thing built, so that when I can play it. Yeah.
Nah, you're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Michelle, and I've really missed our conversations. So this has been really wonderful for me.
I do too. All right, I'm gonna put you to the backstage, and if you want to
Okay.
hang out just a minute, and after I close, we'll have a little more conversation.
Sounds great. Bye,
All
everybody.
right, bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I see so many comments. I will be sure to go back to it one by one to make sure I got everybody's questions answers. And thank you so much for participating. And you were watching Wednesday Live Coffee Talk. This is a show where I bring you a new guest every week on Wednesday at 9 o'clock Pacific time. So join me again next week at 9 o'clock. I will have another amazing guest for you so that you can get going in your business to get it out there, get it seen, get it heard, and get hired. I will see you next time. Bye.